Welcome to Flix List. You're listening on WHYR LP 96.9 FM, Baton Rouge Community Radio. I'm your host, DJ Clay.
And I'm Chewy.
And I'm RCL.
And as always, we're going to spend a half hour talking about movies.
Here we are again, folks.
I'm so tired of looking at you.
So the first movie we're going to review is White Zombie. It's a 1932 movie directed by Victor Halperin and starring Bela Lugosi.
Halpern.
It's a 1932 classic film.
And we say classic with quotation marks.
It's the first ever zombie movie.
Unlike the zombies you are familiar with, the George Romero zombies, as we would call them, these zombies do not eat human flesh. They are simply just dead corpses reanimated.
It's quite a boring group of individuals, actually, these zombies. It's like just the mere fact, like back then, just the fact that it was a corpse that was animated was enough to put creepy crawlies on your skin, you know?
Oh, God,
something
that's dead.
Enough to scare you. But now we're like, okay, that's great. So what do? And
this one, they sit around with blank stares on their faces until...
Well, they work at a plantation.
Until the voodoo master tells them to do something nefarious, and then they all go do it.
Yeah.
It's actually a really interesting because the movie deals largely with the origins of the zombie lore, which come from Haitian voodoo culture. And the idea that in our society, we are scared of gross things like eating human flesh, whereas in Haitian culture, it was a slave culture, and they were terrified of being slaves.
And being controlled.
So the worst thing you could do is have a voodoo wizard put a spell on you and take your soul away.
Curse you to be a slave even after your death.
That's bad.
That's the stinky part of being a zombie, man.
Well, also in this movie, unlike most zombie movies that y'all have probably seen, the villain or the scary part is not the zombies really at all. It's simply the master.
The
master
end
is
up
the
being
scary.
like minions.
Right.
Yeah. They're just like little assistants of the voodoo.
Foot soldiers of,
Yeah,
they are not the
Shredder
harbingers
from Ninja Turtles.
of destruction. They're just the people who carry it out. They're the pizza delivery men of destruction.
Running time of this is actually really short. It's only an hour and 7 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
which is barely a feature nowadays.
Well, and it was an incredibly low budget movie. That's what I think is funny. Even back in the 30s, zombie movies were super low budget.
Yeah.
However many reels that is, but it's a short movie.
I mean, its budget was only $50,000. Obviously, there's inflation to account for there, but it's still
that's still only probably
$300,000
now today.
Yeah, which is a small budget. Because of that, you can't really expect an enthralling plot. Honestly, the plot was thin, slow-paced, a bit boring. It starts with this random guy who apparently met them on this couple who's going to be engaged on a train, and although he has nothing to do with them and doesn't really know them, he finds that this fiancé woman is the woman of his dreams somehow. It's very poorly explained why he's obsessed with this woman and why he wants to steal her from her fiancé. But, basically he wants this woman. And
so basically what you're saying is in 80 years, the plot depth of the horror genre has not gotten any better.
Yeah. it's pretty much the same shallow stuff it always has been.
Yeah.
Well, we're not here for plot twists and turns. We're here for creepy crawlies.
Well, and blood and gore, but unfortunately,
there's no
neither
of that either. And it's the stuffed vulture, I think, is the best part of the movie.
Then let me ask a question to you guys.
I forgot about that. Stuffed vulture that turns magically into a real vulture, and you're supposed to think it's the same vulture.
Why then did I enjoy this movie?
You enjoyed this movie?
Apparently it's because I have terrible taste.
I think that is the question of the hour.
Yeah.
Why did you enjoy this movie?
I mean, I don't mean to be patronizing of it, but I certainly enjoyed it in a sort of quaint, fun way. It's certainly enjoyable in a way where you watch it and you go, I can't believe people were terrified of this, which they were. They were terrified of this. And so you kind of get a kick out of that, and there's some corniness to it. But ultimately, I guess I liked it because I like movies. I like all movies.
I mean, I did find it interesting, and I think that the reason that I found it interesting is really the place that it holds in movie history.
Yeah,
being the first zombie movie, it's interesting to see how characterization of zombies have changed, and to see how they were originally depicted.
It is very interesting to see how the zombies have morphed from these docile, controlled things to what we know of now as them just being these mindless killing machines.
Right. And I mean, the Romero zombies that are slow moving.
That don't have a master, which is actually...
That don't have a master, which is very interesting.
And also, that's what makes it scary. There is no control for them. They are just a mindless mass of destruction.
Oh, that's good. Well, and then nowadays, we've added speed. Now the zombies can be fast, and not only the killing machines, they're faster and stronger than us. And
yeah, and I think my last point about this movie, the thing that really interests me is that Victor Halperin, the guy who directed this, also 4 years later directed another movie in 1936 called Revolt of the Zombies, which interests me because it makes me wonder, at this point, do they start gaining a mind of their own? I don't know, and I guess we'll have to find that out and review it.
Yeah, we need to find it.
Yeah, because we enjoyed this work so much. So, all right, out of 5 stars, guys.
Can we do halvesies, half stars?
Yeah, you can do half
stars.
stars.
Do halvesies?
I'm going halvesies, 2.5, man.
2.5? I'm not too far off. I mean, I would say just because of historical context and importance, I'll give it three stars.
I'll go with 2. The historical context, and I love zombie movies, so this is kind of like sitting down and listening to a really boring story about your grandfather going fishing. Even if you love fishing, you don't want to hear your grandfather talk about
fishing.
it. Yeah, exactly. So well 2 stars for me.
So, continuing with our theme of low-budget horror flicks, we are going to review next The Thing from 1982.
John Carpenter directed.
I've not seen this one.
That's terrible.
Was it good?
That is terrible.
Well,
how do you have a review show and you haven't seen The Thing?
If you're asking if it's good, you must first define good.
Did you enjoy yourself while watching it?
I did.
I very much did.
I enjoyed it, man.
This was a great movie.
It's not really that low budget. It was about $15 million budget.
Oh, wow.
John Carpenter, still a pretty
not
big
to
name
call you
at
out
this
or anything.
No. But he had made his name by that point. I guess they were giving him money to do these things.
Yeah.
It's funny they expect you to do it for no money at first, which is really weird.
Right, yeah. Well, you haven't developed any skills, so we're gonna make it harder for you.
Right.
This is starring Kurt Russell, who is the main character, and sort of you follow his trial throughout this whole ordeal in the Antarctic.
Yeah, it basically follows a story. There's these science outposts, just generic science outposts. Note the quotations.
United States National Science Institute Station 4.
And so these random guys of American descent, and then there's some other outpost, I think Norwegian or Swedish, something like that.
Norwegian.
Exciting way possible.
That's true. In-your-face excitement, and that's ultimately what this movie is. It's special effects. It's visually striking, and at the time that it was released, it was considered the most visually striking special effects movie of its time. And you can tell that the visual effects really hold up. This was, of course, before CGI, the era of computer graphics, and it was at that time where people had really started to perfect the art of actual physical visual effects, and they still hold up to this day. I found them
they were creepy.
Really thrilling, and
awesome.
It made me really want to whenever I'm famous 2 years from now, IMDb me. That's the kind of special effects that I want to have in my movies,
Yeah, I like that. I like your throat. You don't even have anything to plug yet. You're plugging yourself in the future.
Yeah.
The future Chewy is totally getting a free plug on this.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh my god, I like that. I think that's good.
I appreciate it. So your thoughts?
Well, I like I said, I love this movie. It was thrilling. It was terrifying. It was a great story. The acting was. I certainly no one should have won an Oscar for this movie, but the acting was definitely believable.
They didn't, did they?
No.
Oh, thank God. The mention of Oscar actually kind of hurt my ears for a second.
No. But it was certainly believable. It was fun, and my girlfriend was fairly terrified that night. So that's always a good sign.
Oh no, that's a great sign. If you can watch a horror movie from 30 years ago.
Yeah, good math there, Clay. How quick he did that math, guys.
That was not good. Oh, you know the funny thing is, it's the year I was born. I should have been able to get that.
Oh yeah, that
right
should have been
away.
really easy.
No, but I mean, if you could watch a horror movie from 30 years ago, like, and it still be scary, that says quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the ending is, while I won't give it away, the ending is not your typical Hollywood ending. So, and I think it's intriguing and something that if you haven't seen, you should definitely check it out if you want something new and refreshing. Which is strange, new and refreshing. It's from the '80s.
Yeah, Lord knows when I need something new and refreshing. The '80s is the decade I go to.
Yeah, well, the early '80s.
Because normally when I want new and refreshing, I go to Schwarzenegger.
The '80s wasn't new and refreshing when it was the '80s.
I think that one point to make about this movie, there was some lackluster character development. Really not any character development at all, honestly, which as a writer, that's one thing that I really look for and look forward to. But it doesn't really necessarily have a place in every movie. As a horror movie, I mean, how much do you really care about developing the characters that you're watching?
Right, and there's so many characters that if they had bothered to really develop these characters, we would have been like, all right, can I see something blow up or somebody bleed?
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad that this guy went to high school at this place, but
If I'm learning about your feelings, can I at least learn about your feelings of your arm being blown off?
Right, yeah. So, and I mean, I guess we didn't really say much about the movie. Is just about an alien that comes down to outer space that changes from one thing to another, and you never know.
Don't give it away.
That's the
Yeah, it infects things, and it can infect things through contact of some sort.
You never know what it is, or even really what it looks like.
Yeah, and basically all we know is that it strikes generally when someone's alone with it, with another thing that's infected by it. And that's kind of the problem. The simple solution, as set forth in the movie and common sense, is to have a little buddy system. Nobody goes out alone so that nobody gets infected, you know?
Nobody ever follows the buddy system in a horror movie. No.
And so basically the plot's furthered at many points by people being stupid. And that kind of grates on me a little bit. It's like, yeah, if you just had a little bit more intelligent folks, maybe they'd hunker down and get something accomplished here, you know?
Yeah, but then if you watched a movie about people not dying, like, let's go watch Terms of Endearment. Oh wait, somebody dies in that too.
If we had a movie, a horror movie about people being smart, we'd have a bunch of 15-minute movies.
Yeah, really. There's something. Oh, let's go lock ourselves in a basement.
Oh, hey, look, we all survived, and let's have some pizza. You know.
All right, so 5 stars. Yeah. Since Clay didn't watch it, he's not going to give it.
I will not rate this movie.
How do you 5-star rating?
Well, you guys finish, and then I'll judge your critique of it.
I'm gonna give it 3 stars.
Oh, really? Oh, I loved this movie. I'll give it. I almost want to give it 5, but it's such
dude.
I know. It's such a great movie, though. I'll give it 4. Go watch it.
I think that I'm going to judge your review of this movie by giving it half a star.
Half a star?
Oh my gosh.
That's very generous. That's very generous of you.
That's like the teacher who gives out too many Fs. Nobody really wants to try that hard in her class anymore, you know? You gotta give me something.
There's no difference between a 10% and a 50%. You know what I'm saying?
I'm skipping next week.
All right, so the next film we're going to do is called We Live in Public. It's a 2009 documentary. And I was
when he says we're going to do it, that's with quotation marks on the we're, because Chewy and I
did not see this one.
Yes.
So I was really hesitant to do this movie because it's a sort of odd documentary because y'all hadn't seen it. But you know what clinched it for me.
What clinched
When
it, dude?
the moment I knew I was going to have to review this movie,
We're waiting with bated breath.
my fiance,
Oh God.
who is, I'm going to say, borderline addicted to
Okay.
Facebook, as
As many women. I mean,
woke up the morning after viewing this documentary and deleted her Facebook account.
Oh my gosh,
whoa.
Yeah,
that's a beautiful thing.
it is. So if you have a Facebook account and you want to get deleted,
Watch this movie. Maybe I should watch this movie because I loathe my Facebook.
yeah,
account.
no, but there's lots of people who and that ultimately that's what the larger picture of this movie is about our lives becoming more public due to the internet. But what the movie is actually about is the .com entrepreneur Josh Harris, who, if you're going, oh yes, Josh Harris, well then you're a nerd. Because nobody knows who Josh Harris is. Most of you are going, Josh Harris? I think I went to elementary school. That's a pretty common name. Right, no. This Josh Harris, basically at every large turn that the internet or kind of pop culture had taken, Josh Harris was there just a couple of years before it. Basically, when the internet was starting to become an actual thing in American homes, he predicted TV on the internet. He basically told 60 Minutes, I'm here to put you out of business. I'm creating a TV network on the internet, and it may not be my company, but eventually somebody is going to make you obsolete. And we're now living in a world, and this was back in the, this is back in the 90s, in the mid-90s, actually. And we are now living in a world that's becoming more and more true. But in the mid-90s, bandwidths, and we didn't have cable internet yet. The speed just wasn't there. And so it took a long time for this company to do sort of what it was claiming to do. Eventually, old Josh Harris loses his mind because he's one of these .com kids, very, very rich overnight, and he's a genius. Both of those things put together typically mean one loses their mind.
If I were a millionaire, I think I'd get my own personal Plinko game. You know, because they don't play that enough on Price is Right. Go ahead.
Well done. But the next project he does, he ends up losing his mind, sort of getting bought out of this company that he started, and they go on, and he goes off and does his own thing. But his next project was he made a community in New York City of, I want to say it was either 50 or 100 people, but it was quite a large number of people, and they were pod people, and they ended up putting little not hidden cameras. Everybody knew they were being filmed, but everybody stayed in a pod, and you had public areas and you had private areas, and every square inch of the place was filmed, and every part of your life was filmed. And you could get into your pod, and there was a camera, and there was a TV set, and you could flip through and watch any camera in the whole place, or if you had your TV set on someone's pod and they had their TV set on your pod, there was a microphone and you could talk, and that's how you would communicate.
Gotcha.
This, of course, is sounding eerily like
Big Brother
or the real world. This was years before any of this stuff. Again, This guy seems to have predecessed where our culture went.
Yeah.
He also spent part of his life on the internet with his fiance, his girlfriend, I believe, and they just lived in an apartment with all these cameras, and thousands of people tuned in every week to watch these two people live. Again, way before reality TV. So anyway, this is this man's life, and the documentary covers it very, fairly interestingly. But the questions you're left asking yourself, and the questions that this kind of crazy guy ends up asking you during this documentary, which are, don't you realize that you live in public now? You think I'm crazy for doing all these things I did, but who of you is not accessible at any moment? Who of you, we're now at a point where we can update our Facebook pages. What he asks of us is, he says, I'm not as crazy as you accuse me of being. What is actuality is you only wish that you got the attention that I got. And he accuses us of all seeking this level of, that we're totally willing to sacrifice our privacy, and he's willing, and that we're all willing to sacrifice our privacy for the attention that we could get by living in public, and that his thesis is that we all want to live in public. and that that's becoming truer and truer of our lives.
This is an interesting point where I think that if I say what I'm about to say, we're going to delve into something less about review and more about
philosophy.
But I would disagree in that, like, I have a Facebook for reasons that when I did delete my Facebook, people freaked out. And it was a way of that. My family members were like, hey, we just want to know that you're doing okay, and just have a Facebook and let us know that you're.
To me, that's the interesting thing
alive.
Is that he can accuse you of whatever he wants, and that's true or untrue. But what I think he's accusing us of as a society, your family no longer wants to pick up the phone. They want to be able to spy on you. Now, I'm not accusing your family of being bad people or anything like that. Don't get me wrong, But like that's the society that we now live in. Is that we're voyeuristic and we want to be voyeured upon. So there's a give and a take there. We would rather instead of interacting and having human interaction, we would rather just be able to peek in on somebody. And that's far more comforting for us. And that's why my fiance said she deleted her Facebook. She said, no, I'm at a point where I want to have genuine human interactions again. And she says, she calls herself an introvert, which she is. She's, very, very much an introvert. But she says, it's crippling for introverts because an introvert is always going to be attracted to the least confrontational sort of communication. And Facebook is zero confrontation if you don't want it to be, But yeah, and so this man's life is now kind of telling us about our own societal sicknesses, or if you don't think of it as a sickness, as just trend.
That's very interesting. Like, even as you were talking, I just put the documentary on my Insta queue.
Yeah, it's weird. It's gonna creep you out, man.
Well. So what do you give it out of 5 stars?
Okay, out of 5 stars, I'm going to say the documentary, as far as a well-made documentary, scores fairly average. But the content and the thoughts that get provoked due to this documentary put it, way over the top. I'll give it 4.5 stars.
4.5 stars.
Golly.
Roger Ebert gave it 4 stars, which is his highest rating.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So apparently, Chewy and I missed out this week.
Yeah, you did.
Apparently.
Well, no, it's certainly a haunting documentary that will stay with you and make you ask many questions about your modern life.
Fun.
All right, thank you very much for listening to Flix List here on WHYR LP 96.9 FM. Baton Rouge Community Radio.
Have we babbled on for 30 minutes already?
Incredibly. Time flies when you're us.
Yeah.
I like to imagine that there's just crickets in a field whenever this airs, that no one actually listens to us.
That's probably more true than we'd like to admit.
Are you kidding me? We're on the drive home, Friday traffic. Irate people are sitting in traffic on I-10 and I-12 going, God, I wish there was something else I could listen to.
I have an idea, guys. We've been talking about this for a while. We're thinking about changing the name of our show.
Oh, we've been talking about how much I loathe the name Flix List?
Yes, we've talked about that.
Loathe is a strong word.
Yeah.
I greatly dislike this.
But, like we are unsure what to call ourselves. So I have an idea. Why don't we encourage our listeners to, our 3 listeners, who are probably our, family members, to email us and give us your suggestions for our new name.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
come up with a prize.
We'll come up with some sort of prize. You'll definitely, if you're a pretty lady, or a lady at all, really, I'll give you a personalized love letter over the air.
Well, I don't think you should discriminate against half of our contestants.
Are you kidding me? If you're a dude, he'll compose an on-air love letter to you.
If we choose yours, whether you're beautiful, ugly, male, female, Rottweiler, whatever you are, you get lovin' from me, is what I'm saying.
That sounds great. On-air love letter. And to sweeten said pot, we should offer that if the person is interested, we'll have them come on and do a review of their own. They can join us for
that'd be really
a
interesting,
show. And thanks for helping us name the show. Tell us about a movie you love.
Yeah, you can come down. Tell you what, you can come down to the studio and record and announce it yourself what the new name of Flix List is.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, there you go. So we want it, the name needs to have to do with movies, and it has to do with awesomeness. We were gonna name this show Semi-Qualified, which is what we feel we all are.
Yeah, but
it doesn't have to do with movies. So just keep that in mind. But hopefully we will enjoy hearing from you guys. And if you have any questions or suggestions, or if you want to participate in the renaming of the show, please email us at
Please email us.
Until next week, tune in again while you're sitting in traffic on I-10 or 12.